Welcome to another episode of Talking with Kevin and Son, brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network, where through the power of your story, our mission is to uplift through the power of your voice, inspire, share stories and experiences using the perspectives of teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is very simple, folks. Hope. We want to help people every single day. Hi, my name is Kevin McLemore. I am your show host. I'm an award winning author, coach, mentor, and mindset messenger to some of my friends. Today's show is sponsored by The Burrow at 149 East Lancaster Avenue in Downingtown, Pennsylvania, where they have great food, great drinks, and a great vibe where you can meet all kind of people. First floor is nothing but a sports bar. You talking about ever getting in trouble on Sundays? You can watch every single game that's being played in the NFL, college sports, and so forth. And if you want to enjoy some good food, my co-host, which he's no longer there, he's the executive chef. My son Theo, go down and just say, hey, Keith, JT, or Theo, I heard about your show on Talking with Kevin and Son, and they will take care of you. I promise you that. Well, today, our guest, we have someone very special. She is an internationally traveled violinist, actress, whose journey began on the islands of Nassau, Bahamas, raised in a home filled with music. Thanks to her classical trained pianist mother, my guest's voice grew from a church solo act to international stages. She has performed in jazz clubs across the world, featuring in Los Angeles, New York. She has been on theaters nationwide, Broadway, cruise ships. She has graced the stage of Radio City Music Hall, and she has played in Mrs. Claus in a Christmas spectacular. Her musical theater began in the Emerald. I may have that wrong, but in the Hunchback. But I'm not going to go through all this in her resume because she is just fantastic. Today, she brings a great American songbook to life. She is a headliner for Royal Caribbean. She has inspired audience and is an emotional storyteller. But today, we're going to feature her Christmas album. And when you meet this young lady, I'm going to tell you, she has a voice of a lifetime. Let me welcome to the show, Miss Kelly Briscoe. And I practiced this early on. Kelly, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Thank you so much. It's just wonderful to be here with you to have this conversation. I just really appreciate the invitation. Looking forward to it.
All right, all right, all right. Well, thank you so much. Kelly, where does your story begin? You said as a young person, and I know that in my neighborhood, most of us start out singing at church. Where does your story begin?
The exact same way yours does. Um, I grew up singing in church. That's absolutely correct. And my mom, she's a pianist, classical pianist, and we spent a lot of time in church. We moved to the Bahamas when I was about 7 years old. And so that was really what you did as a family. Church was the center of everything in the island. Because let me tell you, Kevin, we didn't even have like electricity half the time. The electricity was always out on the island. We had no phone, believe it or not, until I think we had been there maybe 4 or 5 years before we even got a telephone. So I was born in Ohio, and my mom met a man in Ohio who was from the Bahamas, and she decided to go, let's go to paradise. So that's what we did. And funny enough, he was also a piano player, really wonderful, but they were very different because he played by ear. He couldn't even read music. So it was just this interesting pair that they were, because she was very classical and traditional, and he just was all feel groove. And so we used to have to go to the calling station to call back home, but eventually we got a phone, which was nice. And we had one TV station that came on at 5 o'clock. Okay. So, and it was Sesame Street. So music was like the center of our lives. You went to school, you went to church, and we sang around the piano by candlelight often when the lights were out. That's what we had. We played outside as kids. It was very, very different than today's kids, than my own kid for that matter. But I started singing in the church and as a soloist since I was probably 5, 6 years old. And one of the first songs I sang was Holy Ground. And I was part of the church choirs. And so yeah, that was the beginning.
It's funny, Kelly. It's like every single time that I have someone on the show, I learn something new about them that I should have known before I even did the interview. But you do know I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. What part of Ohio did you grow up in?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was born in Akron and my family's all from Cleveland.
I know
So
that. Oh, I know Akron and Cleveland so well. I did not know you were a Buckeye.
yes, yes,
You
yeah.
always wear red. This is all right. So, as a child, singing. Now, I know that I grew up in a neighborhood, and people have heard me say this, that when you talk about the funk and you talk about R&B music, I can walk across the street and hang out with the guys from Lakeside and Ohio player Roger Troutman and so forth. So, starting out in church, who were the people that influenced you as early on? Where did you find your voice, and where did you find your lane for music?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I we love the American songbook, I would say. I think that I was like always an old soul, if you will. So I loved all of those great standards. You think Frank Sinatra, right? Think Ella Fitzgerald, Nancy Wilson, I loved, and not the singer from Heart, although she's fabulous, but the jazz singer. Although I love what she used to say because she said, I'm not a jazz singer. They always wanted to put her in a box. And she said, I'm a singer because she really crossed a lot of styles. And I would say she represented a jazz lane, but I understand what she meant because she could sing anything. Whitney Houston, my hero, loved her. And I mean, just everybody. I would say, Kevin, because I figured you'd probably ask me about this. And when I think about music, it's really, I don't play a lot of favorites. I could tell you what I dislike more than what I like, if that makes sense. Where I could say I'm not a big fan of heavy metal. But if you talk pop, country, jazz, classical, I was trained classically. So I sang a lot of arias in college and pieces, Mozart pieces and things like that. Another singer I love is Cecilia Bartoli, who's a great opera singer. But I think my heart and soul lives in really like a jazz lane, pop to a certain degree, R&B, soul, all of that is where I find influence, and it really pulls at my heartstrings more than any other sound, I would say.
All right. Um, this is funny because I know what it feels like to get on stage for the first time. I know what it feels like to get on stage when you're not planning to be on stage. I remember a time that there was a singer in the group Stylistics. We were in Detroit, Michigan, and something happened. And I always played around with the group, and I got a chance to fill in for 3 songs, not prepared for it. And looking out into the audience, most people don't do anything with their gift other than sing in the shower. And you've taken your gift and not only been outside your shower, but you've sung through your home. You've sung and probably in talent shows, whatever. Um, how do you have stage fright, or have you ever had it? And what was it like the first time you got on stage? And do you remember?
Oh, I used to sing You Light Up My Life. That was my big song. So when I was in the Bahamas at school and, like you said, talent shows and things of that nature, my mom would play for me. I think I did have stage fright, but the other thing is, it goes away quickly. It's like those initial nerves, which I'm sure you understand. You're a performer and a great vocalist. And so I think um, I yes, to a degree. And you use those nerves to your benefit, those butterflies. And the times that I don't get them is almost worrisome. Like you kind of need that energy to get you going. I will say there's a difference with when I've been in productions, right, from even just straight plays that were non-musicals, because I'm an actress as well, or to musicals, when you're very well rehearsed, um, I think there's less stage fright because everything is like precision. You know your marks, you know where you're going. When I do a lot of solo work or say headlining, when I first headlined on my the first cruise ship at Royal Caribbean, the first time I did it, I think I really was so petrified. You're with this beautiful big band on stage. You've got like 1,000 people or so in the audience. And yeah, I light up when the drum beat goes down and all the rest of it. But you also have very little time to rehearse with them. You do the tops and the tails of the song, right? So you have your 45-minute set, and you walk on stage, and they may or may not be too enthusiastic. They're like, oh, we got to rehearse this at 10 a.m. and we have 2 shows later this night, that same night. And so it's very quick process with the musical director. So that gives me a lot of nerves for sure. So, but then when you're in your show and you're in the moment, I think it passes pretty quickly.
So speaking of in the moment, um, it's funny because music for me has changed, and I think there's a big void in music. What you're feeling today, as you just launched, had a launch party for your Christmas album. Has music changed from the time that we grew up to what we hear right now? And what influence with your current music do you plan on playing? What role do you play or plan on playing in the way that the culture of music is going to be received today?
I think music has changed even from the point that it's all become singles, right? Like there's just like people don't put out a whole album sometimes that tells a story anymore. Back in our time, you really had that start to finish where you're getting a whole story. Now it's like hit, hit, hit number, that's what they're going for, I think, more
Hmm.
than anything. And that's why I know a lot of artists have said, okay, I won't do that. And you can only purchase my whole album because people don't buy albums anymore, right? It's all streaming. So you can come up with a playlist of just your favorite things as opposed to really investing time into an entire album and what an artist is trying to say. I tell you, over the pandemic, my daughter, Chloe, we got a record player. We got a couple actually. And it was really fun because she's a big Swifty fan, right? She's 14, so that comes with the territory. But even Taylor Swift, I mean, it's all a whole theme, a whole story, what she's getting at. And we would sit, Kevin, and actually really listen to the whole record. And that was kind of fun and exciting. Uh, I guess your second question, I mean, for me, I was trying to tell a story for sure with my Christmas album right here,
Hmm.
Heartfelt Christmas. And you're definitely trying to in I was trying to invoke something, and it was hard. I chose 7 songs. Now they're all cover songs, right? So I wanted to have some traditional music in there. We created some medleys as well. And I do think it's thoughtful from beginning to end for sure.
I so wish I had sat down with you before you finished your album because I would love to write for you. I've listened to you sing, but I'm going to do it one day. I'm going to do it one day. I'm going to write something for you, and you are going to perform it or whatever. Because you mentioned one thing in your last statement. You talked about music having a story, and the reason why that resonated with me, I don't know if our listeners or even pay attention to it, but a lot of our music is formula based. I work with a record producer in my personal life, not in my professional life, and he keeps telling me, love your stuff. You've got great lyrics." He said, "But as a songwriter," he says, "it's not the way the business run. You've got to have your pre-chorus. You got to say this at 30 seconds. It's got to do this and do that and whatever." And I'm going, "But you listen to the words of my story. You've heard the music. Is it better to have a formula based song, or a song that touches a person, that tells a story, that creates this experience. As an artist and a recording artist, a writer, what's the mindset when you put pen to paper, or you put the mic in your hand and your heart into your music? What's the mindset?
Well, you're such a prolific writer, so I'm sure you have a great feeling and opinion about that. I think ultimately, regarding formula or regarding anything of that nature, of I would say it's better to be authentic, correct? Even
Mhm.
today, it's like, are they churning out the pop stars, right? When you look at American Idol in the beginning when it first came out, and that was their intention, I think. They had this formula. And now I don't really watch that anymore, but I think they've moved away from that and trying to find authentic voices. So I think for you, or like you're talking about, oh, you need 30 seconds or a pre chorus and then the hook and all the rest of it. I would say to anybody to try to find your authentic voice. Don't sound like anybody else. And if you're authentic, then that's going to translate that emotion, the story that you're going to tell. And it could become something different, honestly, that people are not used to hearing. What do you think about that personally as a writer?
Um, Me as a writer,
Mm-hmm.
um, I write through my heart. When I say that I'm a messenger, I have a lot of words in my head 24/7, and I write love ballads. I miss the R&B music. My music has a lot of soul. The conversation that I would love to have with a woman that sometimes I can't say to her because in fear of being rejected or not being received well, I say through my music. I talk about my heartbreak and I express myself through my music. So I write love stories. I'm a hopeless romantic as a human being, and my songs reflect that. But the one thing I do like about music is the vocals. I love a cappella music. And I just recorded two Christmas songs, all a cappella, nothing but voices. And I miss, singing with Kenny, Squeaky, and Levon, back in Ohio when I was growing up, and our little group singing out in the street corners when we had no music and no band, and we couldn't keep a band together. Um, um, so I don't know if that answers your question, but I do know as a songwriter, and I grew up singing background, and it wasn't until I had a vocal coach that she actually told me that I was a lead singer. I was just happy being part of the band. So I want to turn this interview back to you instead of me. Is that when you're singing, especially when you're doing a cover, how do you make a song that's already successful, more successful in your voice? How do you do that?
Right. One thing I will share with you, and specifically related to the songs that I chose for a heartfelt Christmas, uh, I I love medleys. I've always been a big fan of a medley, mixing things. So one of the most personal songs on the album for me is the song Miss You Most at Christmas and Grown Up Christmas List. So one is a Mariah Carey song, and then the other is by David Foster, which many singers have sung. And then what we started with, my mom is gone. So I talk a lot about my mom and my childhood because her musical influence was great. And we were simpatico, right? As singer and as my mom, who was a good singer too and a great pianist. So she loved, like I said, the classics. So Chopin was her favorite composer. And I wanted to kind of use this medley as an honor to her, a part of it. Miss You Most at Christmas can tend to be about a romantic person, but for me, it's about my mom. And I had a great, I have to talk about the team at Rocksteady Music because they're just phenomenal. And I worked with Emily Drennan, Greg Lopez, the engineer was MP Kuo, and Patty Drennan wrote this arrangement. So what I did, Kevin, I said, I want it to start off classically with the fantasy impromptu. Now, the fantasy impromptu was taken later and given lyrics to it. And it's the song I'm Only Chasing Rainbows. Okay. And that's connected to me as well because I'm a big Judy Garland fan. If I had to pick a favorite song, which I started earlier, I said I do not like favorites, but Summer Over the Rainbow is possibly one of my most favorite songs. So that was a tribute to my mom, and Patty Drennan wrote a beautiful arrangement. So I sang it to her just on like an Apple, my iPhone in a
Mm.
voice memo, and came up with different ideas and how can we blend this and bring in the Chopin into Miss You Most at Christmas, into Grown Up Christmas List, and then come back to Miss You Most. So that's one of my favorite pieces, and it's the most personal for sure and heartfelt.
All right. So I want to ask you before we start talking about your Christmas album, I'm going to ask you one more question, but I want people to know how they can reach you, where you're performing next. And so if you don't mind, how do people get in touch with you? How do they book you? And where are you performing next?
So the best way is through my website, www. Do we have to say that anymore? kellybriscoe.com. And currently, I have things in the work for next year that I'm going to announce later when I get all the details straight. And I'm working on really getting some cabaret performances together. And as you said, I had a great launch party here in town at the Midtown Social. And that's somebody that I'd like to work with again. We had a great time setting everything up. So I will have those updates as well on my website, but all that information at kellybriscoe.com would be the best place to go.
All right. So before we go into talking about the process of your Christmas album and what's on the album, I'm going to ask you, do you mind if I ask you something personal?
Please.
Well, when people find out that I write music and I can sing, they always ask me, and they're surprised by the fact that I can actually sing. And I just realized a couple of days ago I did something I said I'm never going to do before because I played a recording for someone and said, "Is that really you?" And I impromptu auditioned for him, and he apologized because he goes, "I'm surprised that you actually can sing." And I said, "I actually, on my recordings, I have three of the voices: the baritone, the tenor, and my falsetto, and I happen to use another app in order to fill in the bass and the other vocals on it to do it because I self produce. You have a whole team behind you." But you have two of your biggest fans that's parked inside your living room, your dining room, your kitchen, sometimes on the passenger or driver's side of you, and the back seat of you. Chloe 14 and your better half, your husband. What do they think about Kelly, the performer, and how do they treat you? Are you a star at home or are you just mom and the wife?
Oh my gosh, Kevin. I I just, what do they say? Chief cook and bottle washer, right? Mom, can I have some water? Mom, I need this. No, no. I am the mom and the wife all day long. That's it. And no, no, there's nothing fancy about that at home. And in fact, sometimes my loving daughter will roll her eyes a bit, but yeah, they're happy for me and proud of everything. And I was hoping Chloe plays the flute and she's really quite great. So we may add a flute part and maybe release the personal song I was sharing about Miss You Most at Christmas. It would be nice for her to play on a song, so we might record or add that to the recording and maybe release it next Christmas. I think that would be nice to bring her in, right?
Now, let me ask you a question. That's a personal story, and you're gonna do another cover. How about changing that story into an original story? I miss you most. I know a good writer that can probably put that out, no problem.
I know, I know. I need some help. That would be amazing. Well, we have to work together, Kevin. I would absolutely love that.
I
You
would
know,
definitely do that because
yeah.
that's my dream to at my age I don't feel like going out there shaking my butt on stage or whatever. I love singing, but I want to write music for people that are much younger, have better voices than I do, but can't find the words to put on a piece of paper or to sing someone like you. I'd rather do that. I mean, I don't look good in red. I mean, but ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, if you go on her website, or on a YouTube page. I don't know if you mentioned that earlier or see any of your music. Will you hold up the little card
I
of
actually have
your
a
cover?
CD. Can you believe we
A
made
CD,
these? A
compact
CD,
disc.
a compact
If
disc.
if you look at her, in that red dress, I am going to tell you, um, she is just stunning. She is just stunning. And to see her perform, wow, wow. And I say this as a fan, not as a friend, a fan. She is incredible. So,
Thank you.
where can you get the CD? And
On
let's
my
talk about that.
website. Yeah, kellybriscoe.com. And I have a pretty convenient link, $20. I'll send it to you. It's really nice because I have my special thanks on there. And it is sort of people still have CD players in their cars. And a lot of friends and stuff wanted it anyway. And I do believe they can play it. And if you don't have a CD, maybe you just, I don't know. But I guess if you do, please get it. I'll send it to you.
All right. So I've got to ask you because a lot of people, because I've been asking you questions, sending you texts asking about the music because I've recorded within the last year or so more than 200 original songs. And I would say 50% of them can dance around the park and do very well. But there are some questions. How do you put your music out on? Do you have a record deal with some big company and how does that work? So how do you get your music out there for one?
Well, I happen to work with an old friend of mine. We worked together at Radio City um, Music Hall's Christmas Spectacular many years ago. And because of the gift of social media, you really can stay in touch with people. And she's a singer as well, who really works a lot producing now. And her and her husband created a company called Rocksteady Music in New York City. And so when I had this idea of wanting to do this, I said, let me talk to Emily and get some advice and see about working together. So that's exactly what happened. And she has a fantastic team, great engineer. Like I said, MP Quo did the album, and musicians, just really great studio players in Manhattan. So that was the beginning of the process.
All
And
right,
how,
well,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah, so we in terms of getting it out, they produced everything and then you work with a distributorship. So it was wonderful for me because I could just be on the creative end of it, talking arrangements and flow and song choices, going back and forth and getting together and singing through things and changing keys and getting all that feedback and all that wonderful creative ideas of what songs to choose. And then they handled the rest in terms of the rights for the music, because again, these are cover songs, and then putting it out there, all of the rest of it through CD Baby is one distributor for sure. And then it
Okay,
gets to all the streaming platforms. So it can be found on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and that's it. Yeah.
okay. And what about copyrights to your music? I mean, when you do covers, you don't own a copyright, nor do you own the masters. How do you make money from that, if you don't mind me asking?
Through streaming. And I don't think it's necessarily that easy to do. Um, but this is a launching point for me, right? This was a passion project to do. And really, I kind of feel like I'm in that a second act where I've dedicated so much of my life to my family. Once upon a time, I was working professionally nonstop and traveling and touring. And then I met a wonderful man. We got married. We had a wonderful child. And then you kind of pump the brakes and say, well, I'm so happy I get to dedicate my life to my family for a time. So now I've opened the door to say, I want to get back to work. I've got more to share. It's a new season, a new song in my heart. And I feel like this is the beginning. And I think it's a wonderful launching pad, honestly, to come out with this and just see where it takes me. And like I said, get back into cabaret work and concert work would be really, really fun.
All right, and I hope that guy you're married to um, feels good about the fact you mentioned him on a global platform. Didn't even bring up his name. So,
Christopher.
Christopher, I'm
Yeah.
looking out for you. I'm looking out for you.
Yes, the one and only Z Man, as
So
his friends call
I'm going
him.
to this because I'm going to ask you this on a text. So I'm going to put it out there because other people are going to know. Because I know a lot of people are putting things out on Spotify and CD baby. You told me about this a couple days ago, and I said I was going to release um, one of my original songs. This is Kevin. That's the name that I perform under, and my music will be under. And then I was going to do an acapella, and I did a Christmas song. But I ran into something that I wanted to ask you a question about because I know with book publishing, the ISBN number that's on there, a lot of times you'll get people that will self-publish and have other people set up their accounts. But I also know that when whoever owns the ISBN number actually owns the rights to whatever materials on there, even though you're the author and you've got a copyright, that overrides it. That is that little barcode on the back of it.
Mhm.
On music, there is what is it? UPC
UPC.
code,
Yeah.
Universal Production Code, that's on the back of it. Um, that I know in CD Baby, they ask you two questions. Either you own your own or they will apply for you. Now, it's a conversation I'm having with you right now. Do they own the rights to your music if they own the universal product code? And that's your code so you can get paid for it. How's that? Do you know anything about that?
Maybe just a little, but I do know that we also had to pay rights for this music. A lot of this is a little bit of a side note that I will add. Funny enough, somebody asked me this who also understood about music. It's like, oh, did you choose to do a Christmas album? Because I don't know what year, early 1900s, there's certain Christmas music you don't have to pay for.
It's
Certain,
public.
yeah, public domain. So I didn't choose any of those songs. But I think obviously for you, writing so much original music and material, then you obviously are going to want to own all of that and make sure everything's copywritten for you so that it's all your own publishing. Because, of course, that is where the money is, correct? Just the same way
Yeah.
that I had to pay rights to somebody who already wrote these songs to
Yeah,
use
and so
them.
did, so did Whitney Houston, which made Dolly Parton very happy that
Yes.
not only did she sing her song and made it famous forever the rest of her life, but it made her more money in the cover of it than it did the original song. And the same way with Luther Vandross. Not one of his original songs were original; they were covered. Someone probably rewrote it to arrange it for them. So when we talk about your album, your Christmas album, we want to focus in on that. How many songs are on your album?
There are seven, two big medleys, and then five other songs. So yeah, I do three hymns, I should say, or traditional spiritual songs. I have O Come All You Faithful, and then Joy to the World is another one, and Oh Holy Night, traditional standards that everyone knows. And that was the fun part for me too, because I could play with different styles. So I would categorize it as a pop album, but there's a little bit of flavor and soul and R&B feel with This Christmas, the Donny Hathaway song, as well as then I have a real jazz kind of big band number, which is called The Man with the Bag. It's kind of got a vintage style to it.
Hmm.
So that's what I enjoyed too about the process was mixing up some I think you can really get away with that on a Christmas album. Whereas if, like I know you're in the R&B lane, but if you're doing something else, you really want to stick with a genre, a style, don't you think, Kevin?
Yeah.
So, but this could be playful and fun. And so, yeah. And then the other favorite, I'll tell another little story about my childhood. As I said, I grew up singing in the church, and funny enough, we ended up going to many different churches. And the other tradition we had in our family was we went to see the Handel's Messiah almost every Christmas season and listen to the Hallelujah chorus. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but are you familiar with the Hallelujah chorus?
Yep. Very.
Yeah. Right. So we would, and I, as a young child too, I don't know, I might have been 14, a little bit older, but I ended up singing that with the choir as well. And so that was a really great childhood memory for me. So when I wanted to do Joy to the World and I wanted to combine it another medley with the Hallelujah chorus, and I think it's one of the best tracks. It's the last one on the album, and it's really fun. I had great background vocalist, And it just turned into this wonderful jam session, really, of praise and glory. And, it was really one of the best tracks, I think.
All right. So, I mean, when you say stay comfortable, I'm going to make you uncomfortable because I'm going to get you to sing
Uh-oh.
some of my music. Because one of the things that with my current music, I actually hired someone to teach me how to rap. And the reason why I did it, I'll be honest with you, there were some lyrics that I wrote that I thought was important that weren't exactly singable. And I use rap as the fill in the gap to go ahead and put these words in there, which I'm going to tell you, LL Cool J and Snoop Dogg um, are my influences because technically I can't rap, but I'm cool as hell when I'm trying to put words together. So I go back to the 70s and 80s when my version of rap is just kind of like talking a little faster and saying some words, you know.
Can I interrupt you
Yeah, you
with
can.
something? When I'm alone in my room, sometimes I stare at the wall, and in the back of my mind, I hear my conscience call, telling me I need a girl that's as sweet as a dove. For the first time in my life, I see I need love. Do you know the rest? There I was,
Yeah,
giggling about it.
listen to that. Kelly, I can do something with you.
And I have played with. I can't believe that's in that long term memory. LL Cool J was like my hero. I was obsessed with him when I was growing up. Okay, I had to break
Okay,
it.
you could be obsessed with him. Kelly, we got to do something. For the simple fact is, we got to get you out of that lane and put you in mainstream.
Okay.
Um, that is all right. Are you able to, do you like writing or do you just like doing covers?
No, I have written over the years. I spent some time in Los Angeles. I had a manager out there. Shout out to Leonard Herring Jr. And we would go all over the place. I sang all over LA and it was great. And I was working with a few different people. And I think I might be better with, and I've written a few things. And I think that talk about being scared. That's scary too, right? Um, but I've written some pretty good lyrics because I think if you're again coming from that authentic place, we all have stories to tell and you could tap into it. So it's something I would love to tap in more to. And who knows, go back into some of those old journals and take a look at what I did.
I think you should because I think music is shifting back to the music that we have had when we were growing up, and people actually want to hear music. They actually want to hear a song. They don't want to be sold on a production.
Mm.
This is just my mindset, and that's the reason why I write with soul. And I can't wait till I write something for you. Um, question.
Me too.
You have X amount of songs on your album. How do you pick the first and why do you put something last?
Yeah, my producers and I went back and forth with that actually, because obviously I want their feedback and their input. So we're emailing and what do you think about this order? I think some of it was pretty obvious. Like this Christmas was obvious that that should be the opening song. And I think where I have what are you doing New Year's Eve? Okay. And I almost thought that should be the last song. And it's more of a jazzy, slow standard, just because you say, oh, you're looking to the future, to the end of the album. So that would bring you into the new year, right?
Hmm.
They kind of felt like strongly that Joy to the World ends triumphantly. It's a big song, and that should be a bold, big, strong ending. So I came around to think that that was a great place to be as well. But I think you're weaving some story into even the order of the tracks, right? You're thinking about tempo, um, up tempos, moderate tempos, ballads, and textures. So that's how we kind of organized it. I think we were on the same page.
Yeah. How do you take criticism? I mean, as you know, and I'm going to say to everyone out there, once I release my first couple of songs, is that the people in my circle they hear before anyone else hears, and I'm going, "What do you think?" Now, Kelly is one of these people that doesn't send me a like, an emoji, or whatever the case may be, or a thumbs up. She actually tells me the feedback, and if this song is worthy, I should do this, I should do that, and whatever. And I respect that because that's what I'm looking for. Because at some point, you don't know how your word's going to be received. Because in my head, oh, I did something great. and then I hang on a couple of lines and the melody works for me, whatever, but I don't always know how someone receives it. How do you deal as an artist with criticism? Does it matter? Their voice matter? Does your voice matter? Or does it shut you down altogether and send you back to redoing it altogether? How do you deal with criticism?
Hmm. That's a great question. I will say I think I'm the hardest critic on myself. I think I'm the toughest. And this was pretty scary for me too, Kevin, because I'm mostly a live entertainer. My whole life, you sing live, you engage in performance, you are creating something with an audience, which is the most special, unique experience, and you're vibing off of each other, right? And then when you're done, you're done. It's out there. There's a feeling hopefully you've evoked in them and they've received something through the story, through the music. They've been moved, they've been touched, they've laughed, whatever the emotion may be. Music is universal language, right? And it is
Right.
emotional. And so whether you had the most perfect pitch or you know what I mean, like whether the performance was perfect or not, it doesn't really matter because it's gone, so it's left in our memory. So doing this, as you well know because you've recorded a lot, it's there to re-listen and re-listen to. And I, even with this process, there was a lot of planning, a lot of work that went involved, some rehearsals, things like that. But we had 2 days in the studio, Kevin. So that was it. I went to New York 2 times, spent many, many hours in those 2 days. And so I had to listen back and really kind of be happy and proud of what I did, because there's that voice inside that always, and I want to ask you that. Do you feel, oh, I want to change that, or I sit with it more and I could do something different or approach it differently? But at the end of the day, you also have to say, well, this is it. I'm happy with it. This is the work that I've done. In terms of other people, and feedback, when we were working together with my team, of course I want their feedback, their opinions, and in terms of the public, I don't know what to say, right? Because again, I don't know. Will people say anything? If they don't like something, what happens?
Well, you're always going to have,
But I'm always looking to better myself. So ultimately, I'm the toughest critic for sure.
well, I'm going to say this is that um, I'm a whole different performer when I'm singing live. You said it before. There's something about a live audience being able to reach out, touch someone, or whatever. I hit notes when I'm singing that I probably couldn't hit in the studio. I just know that from my days of singing with Kenny and Squeaky and all those guys, whatever, is that because you're right there and you're so close to people and everyone's looking at you like they're trying to find something wrong. They're trying to make you do something. You get people teaching you how to sing. They can't sing a note and it's telling you how something's going to be or how this could be or whatever. But I just know when I get on stage, and I sing, my attitude changes, my voice changes. Um, I become very cool, when I'm walking up and I grab your hand and whatever, and I talk about, if I look in your eyes and I start to sing this song and it takes me back, it's just like when I sing my Christmas song about, me missing someone on Christmas and always having an excuse because I'm working, not being home. But my version of I will never miss another Christmas because I want to spend every Christmas with you. When I wrote those lyrics in that song, it was about someone, it's about, to be honest, is my daughter. Because of working and, being away, I missed a couple Christmases I should have been there and whatever. It sounds like a love song, but I love my daughter. Um, and that's the way that that song came about. But yeah, I, I will throw away a song because I'm too critical of my song, myself. And so that's the reason why when I send stuff to you, I'm trying to stop rewriting because it's always, I'll find something in there. I could have said this word, I could have said that word or whatever. And I am the worst for myself. And I know I'm writing music and performing music for other people to sing. And I said, I'll let them fill in the blanks. I'm just giving them enough to work with. So, Tell us about your CD, your Christmas album. But I need to do this. I need to pay the bills. I need to remind everyone. Okay. Friday nights, they play live music at the Borough at 149 East Lancaster Avenue in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. It's Sunday. If you're a sports fan, they have three levels. The first level, they have television monitors that has every single football game on Sunday. So, dudes, women, if you ever get in trouble and want to hang out and have good food, the sushi's great. They have a pizza guy that's all the way from France that just is amazing out there. TJ and Keith and my son Theo, they're the best. So if you get a chance to go out for dinner on Friday nights, upscale restaurant is on the second floor. Dinner and dancing is on the third. Sports bar is 24/7 on the first floor. It's at 149 East Lancaster Avenue in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. I'm talking about the Borough. All right, great place. Now, Kelly, back to you. Let's talk about your Christmas album that you just released. It's coming out this Christmas. Do you have a favorite song on it?
Hmm. I guess I might say Miss You Most at Christmas, Grown Up Christmas List. That one that I shared that's really a very personal, probably that one. Yeah. And I love Oh Holy Night.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully I love them all
And how,
differently.
all right. And how do people get in touch with you? How do they purchase your CD? Um, and how
They
do
can
people, if they want to hire you to perform, how do they reach you?
through my website, kellybriscoe.com, and my social media. I think you'll have that attached, right? I'm on Instagram as well. I'm Kelly Briscoe, like I am Kelly Briscoe. And again, the album is on all of the streaming platforms. Kelly Briscoe, A Heartfelt Christmas.
All right. Kelly, again, I'm going to ask you two personal questions before we end. How important as an artist is how does faith influence your creativity?
I think it's everything. It's grounding for me. Um, I love the Lord with all my heart. And I think that for me, being a person of faith, leading with that, and being a person who believes in prayer and wanting to honor the gift that I was given as well. I think that I want to pass everything through that filter before I proceed with anything. So it's a major part of my life for sure.
Yeah, I'm a personal believer God gives all of us different gifts. And sometimes he gives us gifts such as your voice, your influence, in order to fill the space in people's hearts that normally have more questions than answers. And I think through music, we answer those questions because we allow ourselves both mentally, emotionally, and physically to be free. And that's the reason why we dance when we hear music. That's the reason why we sit back and we reflect and remember when we hear music. And when you hear voices like Kelly Briscoe's music, it justifies why we live the life we have. Now, the last question I'm going to ask you, Kelly, okay? What makes a performance unforgettable? And I'm asking you this just in case I ever have to sing with you, because I can't hold a candle to all that red.
What makes a performance unforgettable? You have to leave it all on the stage, Kevin, I think, right? Again, I keep using the word authenticity, but I think passion, bringing that fire and heart. And I do think it becomes like we were saying earlier, it becomes even you're reaching higher notes or different notes or something, right? When you're
Mhm.
in that live space, you are connecting and you're stimulated, right? You're stimulating the audience, you're stimulated by everything, and all of your senses are engaged, right? There's nothing greater than live performance. Like you're so in the moment. I love to dance as well. And it's a similar thing where you're engaged, your whole body. You like the vagus nerve is engaged, which is our parasympathetic nervous system, right? And that relaxation, that core of your being, those senses are alive. And I think endorphins, all of that's happening. So it's one of my favorite things. Um, and I think you just have to go for it no matter what, be full of passion and fire.
I have to ask you this because this just popped into my head. Have you ever, and I'll tell you why I'm asking this, have you ever forgotten a line or a verse in a song? And the reason why I ask this is because the first time I got a chance when I was growing up to sing a verse as a solo act, I went to, like they say, look at everyone in your underwear. I
Mm-hmm.
started to sing a voice, and this was when I was training my falsetto, and I actually hit this note, and I looked down into the audience, and it was this beautiful girl down there, and my eyes contacted hers, hers contacted me. I forgot the whole second verse of the song. Has that ever happened to you?
What did you do?
I ad-libbed my butt off.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 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 You start
And,
making stuff up.
I start making it up and then I start talking, as if, and I walked up to her and I started talking as if, it was part of the song. And the guys I was singing were looking and going, what the hell is he doing? Until I finally got back up to where the chorus came in and I started to sing it and they just happened to pick it back up. But I said, oh my gosh, I couldn't even think of the words because I never had a girl react to me singing because I was always singing background. And the
Right.
first time that someone reacted, because it used to be Squeaky, his name is Jonathan Rice, he would get all the love. And here I go, I was singing baritone at that time. And all of a sudden someone reacted to me. I didn't know how to handle it. So you've been on stage more so than I recently.
Mhm.
Have it ever got to the point that your eyes got called and the like, a family member was there or you stepped on the edge of your dress or whatever, you go, oops, and all of a sudden the words disappeared in your head? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, versions of that for sure. And I think you're right. People can throw you, something can throw you, an audience member. And so I think a few different things have jumped in my head. I got to pick one. Let's see. One thing I will say, and I know that if you've jumped a line or you missed something, then yes, I'm pretty good at ad-libbing as well and making something up. And the other thing is I know, especially in a concert setting, not a scripted musical, right? Where everything is very precise. But when you're engaging with an audience, sometimes you get carried away and you're like, oh, you're talking or you're throwing something out, you're laughing, even in the middle of a song or during a break or something like that. And I could throw myself off. Does that make sense? And you're like,
Yep.
where am I? I got to get back on this train. But I remember, and the show always must go on. My grandfather passed away, and I was doing a show called Jerry's Girls, and I had this wonderful big ballad, and there's a verse after verse after verse. It was like very long, verse, chorus, and I was in the clear, and it's up to me to bring the band back in. Right. And I held for so long because I just had all this memory and this sort of emotional moment because it was a sad song too. And of thinking about my grandfather and the whole band was waiting, like, what is she? So the pause felt like it was endless. And I kind of went blank for a moment. And thankfully, all the lyrics and everything came back to me and I jumped back in for sure. But I do remember that. Yeah.
Right.
It's not a
Um,
good thing. You got you really have to have those lyrics solid because in live performance, anything can happen. It's the truth.
right. I've had a performance with the group that power went out while we were performing, and that's the reason why I said I love singing a cappella. And we actually turned around and on stage started to put it together an a cappella, same song that we were had with music. So that's the reason why I love voices. Kelly, I know a lot of people are asking this question, and people are probably saying before we let Kelly B go, is it too late to start a musical career, or how early should you start a musical career, especially if you possess that talent?
I think the earlier the better. And I'd like to believe that there's room for everybody at every different time in your life. Like I said, this is a new season for me. And what's exciting is kind of creating your own work. And I think that because of the way the world is and social media and all of that, you can really do so much these days by yourself. Whereas back in my day, I mean, it's like I had to go in and audition for every single thing, right? In person, really hitting the streets, all of the rest of it. Now you can even audition online, for goodness sake. You can still be in the comfort of your home and put everything on tape. But what the freedom that I enjoy now is saying, you know what? At this point, I would like to put something out there, move forward, and not necessarily be bothered with trying to get hired for a specific role anymore. So, especially if you're singing and you have that passion and talent, I would encourage keep singing no matter what age you're at, right? Enjoy the gift that God gave you and put it out there. Get involved and make it happen for yourself. Ooh.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Kelly Briscoe, actress, singer, performer, has been all over the world, grew up in the church from Ohio. Um, just a genuinely good person when you talk about music and life story. She puts a life story into words. Kelly, what before we leave, what do you want our listeners to take away from this interview? And one more time, tell us how we can get in touch with you. Tell us how we can get access to your album. And I'm going to ask you to do me a small favor. I want to take the lid off the future and tell us what's coming up for Kelly Briscoe.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's I hope that they have fun listening to this and a little bit about process and how things work. I'll hold this up again. You can find a Heartfelt Christmas on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Music. And you can go to my website. And for any details about upcoming future projects, we'll all be there at kellybriscoe.com. Kevin, you are the absolute best. I can't wait to make some music with you. I think that's in the future, correct?
Yes, that's
People,
definitely in the future. I can't wait to write a song for you because I think at the end of the day, you should have your own original.
I would love
And
that.
I'll put the words together, but I need to know your story because I'm a storyteller. And
Yes.
especially I would love to put something together that your musical vocals and your daughter's musical talent that you guys can be on stage because my head is spinning right now on how to tell that story and how to make a love story between mom and daughter be a story
Oh,
that will resonate through every mother and daughter throughout the world, no matter where you are, no matter what color, wherever you believe or wherever you are. I think that relationship between a parent is paramount. So I just want to thank you for coming to the show. And it meant a lot for me to be able to, be a fan of you. Even though I'm the host of the show, I'm a big fan of Kelly B. And ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that it's hard for an artist to get up and talk about themselves to everyone else. And that's the reason why the real story is behind the music. The real person is behind the person that's singing the song, no matter if it be a cover, original, or something they write for someone else. Your gift, and I want you to remember this coming over the holidays. And I hope that you play this interview over the holidays. And don't forget your gift. It's part of your faith. It never leaves you. Your
hmm.
purpose does not ever expire. That's the reason why I asked the question, too young or too old to make a difference. Life may take you in many different ways, and you may have different seasons. The beauty of chaos is in the lessons that you learn, but answer your calling, no matter if it's a Apple phone, Verizon, a Google phone, and whatever, no matter if your bill's paid or unpaid or whatever, the message will always be with you. It doesn't always have to come by text or email. It is sometimes in the way the sun sets and the way the sun rises. So Kelly's story reminds us that you can take a step back into the light, but the line always shines on you. Reinvent yourself because anything and everything is always possible. Find your real voice, find your true voice, and it will always take you home. So, my grandfather said, when you get to a place in life that you can help someone else out, he said it's your duty to do so. He said, reach one, teach one. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll fade to black and we're out. Thank you, Kelly B. Till next time.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much.